this is kind of a talk about how to let God help you, in the words of Myrtle Fillmore, and one of those is how we talk to God. So that includes prayer, of course. And the book that Paul Smith wrote about the three faces of God, essentially, is called "Is Your God Big Enough, Close Enough, You Enough?" Okay, I'm going to break that down again. Is your God big enough? Is your God close enough? And is your God you enough? And this sets up, these questions set up a wonderful framework for thinking about our relationship with God. And so this first, I'm actually going to share my screen here. I'm going to do these so we can keep track of these things. And this first area is we talk about God. And it's also kind of known as the infinite face of God, God beyond us. Just like when we were thinking about the grandeur of God, looking at that mountain or looking at nature, that's kind of what it is. And the guiding question in this area is your God big enough? And it's not a test. There is no right or wrong answer to is your God big enough, but it's a guiding question that really gives you like a spiritual exercise to maybe go into meditation with when you think about this first face of God, talking about God and thinking about this God beyond us. You're using this when you say things like, my God is bigger than any problem, right? You're thinking about this infinite God that can handle anything. Some of you may have heard of The Golden Key, a book by Emmett Smith. It's a very short book, and this book is also in this realm of about God. And I'll tell you, the nice thing, I like short books. The nice thing, because I have too many to read, we all do. The nice thing about this good book called The Golden Key is not only is it a short, small book, it has very few pages, but the author summarizes this book in the first page pretty much in 2 paragraphs. And I'm going to read those short paragraphs so you will know what The Golden Key is all about. So the author, Emmett Smith, or I'm sorry, is it Emmett Fox? Someone can put that in the chat. Emmett Smith, I think, is a football player for Dallas, right? Right, Gary? Okay. All you have to do is this. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. This is the complete rule. And if you only do this, the trouble, whatever it is, will presently disappear. It makes no difference what the trouble is. It can be a big thing or a small thing. It can be a concern of health, finance, a fight, an accident, or anything else conceivable. But whatever it is, just stop thinking about that thing and think of God instead. That's all you have to do. That's the golden key. And I think that's wonderful. And it really goes in line with this idea from Paul Smith about this God. We're talking about this God, a God big enough for our mind. You notice also that there's the prayer for protection, which is a traditional unity prayer. I call it the light prayer, but it comes in many forms. But its original prayer is actually invoking this God beyond us. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. It's very much this God out there. And it's non-unity in a way, because certain ministers have taken it, and we do here. We've added the language, I am that love, I am that light, I am that power, because we don't believe in separation here. But what my whole premise is today is it's so healthy in building our relationship with God, expanding our relationship with God, to get to know God in different ways. And this about God is one way to think of it. So we're already doing that when we say the light of God surrounds us. We're already doing that by saying, my God is bigger than this problem. And you know, this whole idea of God outside the self, it can contain things that are God separate from ourselves, and this judging God. Did How many of you grew up with the thought of God is in the sky, an old white guy in the sky that's going to judge you at the end of time, and he's watching over you. You better be nice, like Santa Claus. He's watching out if you're naughty or nice. He looks like Santa Claus, probably. So this realm, it can contain wonderful, fascinating aspects of God, but it can also contain some aspects that are not true as we see them in New Thought. But to walk away and throw the baby away from the bathwater and say, well, I'm only going to refer to God as inside of me and everything else is bad. I think that's bad. So I go on with the second face of God. And I'm just going to share my screen for a second in case you want to take a quick note. And so this is the face of God, the second face of God, where we talk to God. The intimate face of God, not the infinite face of God, but the intimate face of God. The first song I think of is a Karen Drucker song. Maybe I Will Be Gentle with Myself, but that's, you know, it's that energy, it's that nurturing energy, God beside us. And the guiding question here is your God close enough? Is your God close enough? And I'm going to stop sharing. And so that's really this realm where you say, when you use the language you, Wayne Dyer often quoted Meister Eckhart in saying, if the only prayer that you ever say is thank you, that will be enough. Thank you. Thank you, God, right? Thank you, life. Thank you, universe. Thank you, spirit. Thank you, angels. But whatever you're saying thank you to in terms of this source energy, it's you're saying thank you to the God of your understanding. You're building this personal relationship. Jesus used all three of the languages that I'm going to talk about, but when Jesus called the Father Abba, that means daddy or papa, right? So it's a very beloved term, you know, like he would refer to his biological father. And I was thinking of when my dad taught me how to pray. He taught me how to pray to God. It was always this conversation to God. And I'm also thinking about we don't often talk about devotion in prayer. That's a very Eastern concept. But think about when you you see it more maybe in Baptist churches, praise and worship, but devotion can go from praising something outside of the self to praising in a very personal way, building this relationship in a personal way. So all the Hindu chants that you hear are very beloved of the, you know, you're in devotion of the God by many names, by millions of names. And you're bringing that into this personal relationship with you through your chanting. Whether you talk about God or Jesus or angels or saints, bodhisattvas, ascendants, masters, ancestors, you're talking about having a conversation. You can talk to them. And this is the realm of asking for help. This is the realm of God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. You know, the courage to change the things I can't. So you're asking God, you're requesting of God. This week, my partner Jen had a health scare where she had some skipped heartbeats, and she went in to have a CT scan and or an angio, one of those two, and they sent her a note. No description, no, it was just like, here's the outcome of your test, and it said enlarged heart. And so and both of us were just knocked on our butts with that diagnosis. And she had to wait 4 days to be seen by a cardiologist and get some deeper tests. And they did an echocardiogram in her heart. And we met with the cardiologist that afternoon, and the cardiologist says, "Oh, your heart's perfect. Those other guys read it wrong." What? So, give someone a heart attack for 4 days by giving them the wrong diagnosis about their heart. There's a joke in there somewhere. But when this was going on, my prayer wasn't immediately, and I've talked about this before, my prayer wasn't immediately going to affirmations. It wasn't immediately going to Jen is whole, perfect, and complete. It wasn't immediately going to that. It was going to the state of prayer and the relationship with God that my inner child, which is always there, understands. It's the prayer where the universe knocks you on your butt and you get on your hands and knees and pray, or you're wherever you are, you say, God, I say, God, please help me. Please help Jen in this situation. And you're asking, it's a request. And those in New Thought, they tend to say, no, 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 don't pray like that. But I really appreciate the work of Paul Smith, Ken Wilber, and what's folded into a larger system called Integral Christianity. And Unity is studying that, as Denise has inspired me with these teachings, that there are so many different ways to pray. Don't be ashamed or afraid or embarrassed or guilty to pray to God as if God is outside of yourself, because that is a way to form a separation in your mind so you can have a relationship, so you can ask, so you can surrender, really. And I love that. I love that approach and being able to pray like that. So the guiding question of this area is, your God close enough? So I invite you to explore that realm. And I'm going to share the last screen of this last area. So we talk about God was the first area. We talk to God was the second area. And this one is we talk at one with God. I left a word off the slide. We talk at one with God. It's the interface of God. It's God being us. God being us. And the guiding question here is, your God you enough? And it's just a beautiful way of thinking about our unity with God. And this is what New Thought is all about. It's about, one of the things is we realize that there's only one presence and one power. That doesn't mean it's out there. It's not separate from ourselves. So Paul Smith said, God has this first person face, which is mystical, and it comes alive in the names of Christ consciousness, Buddha nature, your enlightened self, your divine self, your true self. I think Jesus intimated this view when he said, the Father and I are one. And later he said, I am the light of the world. Later he said, you are the light of the world. So Paul Smith argues that, well, it must be because we are all the light of the world, and there is no separation. So this is where we get back to, in Unity and Centers for Spiritual Living and All New Thought, we pray from the standpoint of I am divine. And so if there's one prayer that, when in doubt, it can just simply be I am. And then you can just add one word onto it, and there's your affirmation. I am whole, I am joy, I am complete, I am divine, I am abundant, I am light. And these are where we recognize the divine self in us, that we are not, nobody grew up, well, maybe a few people, lucky people that grew up in New Thought, but most of us, because of our upbringing and because of society, it is a lifelong work. And it's one of the reasons why you're sitting here right now, is to break these mental habits, ways of thought that are so ingrained that we must remind ourselves to remember our God selves. And so along this light, a quote from Paul Smith from his book, he said, to the degree that we lose identification with our ego personality instead of identifying our God self, to that degree, we walk and talk like Jesus did. We walk and talk like the great masters, the great sages, and the great saints did. The more we look at the world from this place of deep inner divine light, the more we are manifesting what Jesus talked about when he made that audacious claim that we are the light of the world. So, speaking of the teachings of Jesus, when Jesus wanted to pray in this way and wanted to say these things, people wanted to kill him. The aristocracy, the Romans, they wanted, the leaders wanted to kill him because it was basically taking the power away from the hierarchy of the power of the leaders, and it was giving power to people. And so it was forbidden, right? It was not to be, and it was radical. And in some senses, it still is radical. This is very recent history we're talking about. Mankind, womankind has been around for 200 million years. 2,000 years ago, someone comes along and says, we are divine, is very, very new. And Christianity being one of the newer religions of all religions. So this is, it's really powerful stuff to think about. So again, there is no right or wrong way to think about God, these faces of God. And I'll say that, so there's these three we talked about, and I'm going to add a fourth, which is really the face of God that we explore being mystics. And those of you who have studied Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, they were against writing down any rules. The 5 Principles of Unity were written in the 90s. Okay. Not many people know that. I didn't know that until ministerial school. It's because they had plenty of writings and teachings, but they did not want to say, we must say this as dogma. Same with Ernest Holmes, the founder of CSL. We don't want to fix a dogma because we are a movement. We're not a church. And they found their God through mystical pursuits. Charles found his healing way through dreams, and Myrtle found her healing way through being inspired through a spiritual talk, essentially. And they found physical healing through that. So whether you find your conversation with God through music, and let me just say this. I saw a podcast last night, Gary, I should tell you about it. They say that written culture has been around, writing has been around for 5,000 years, but humankind has been around for 200 million years. And so you probably have millions of years before writing happened where things were encoded in song so they could be remembered, codified, and passed down. The Goriot storytellers, that's kind of the beginnings of rap, Africa. But there were songs that were encoded with helpful, practical information as well as spiritual information. But they say our brains and our bodies, therefore, genetically understand the language of song. Every part of the brain understands the language of song and processes the language of song. So singing is such a powerful way. And, Gary has his singing circles, which you can find out about on his website. Singing and just listening to music is such a powerful way beyond words. When you hear a melody that is saying things to you that no words could ever say. I personally, the melodies speak to me more than the lyrics do. They always have. It's vibration. So I invite you to think about going into the mystic, to quote another song, as you think about the spiritual practices of drumming, spiritual practices of dancing, spiritual practices of writing poetry. Tana, I know you do that with your poetry writing. Creating, just dreaming, doing whatever, making up your own spiritual practice. And that is, to me, the fourth face of God, the fourth way you can have a conversation with God. So I'm going to end my talk here. I'm so grateful. Thank you again to Denise Lesia for really inspiring me to talk about this subject. Yeah. Yeah, I'm reading the chat. Russ said, "We are perfect, whole, complete, infinite, pure, and free." Thank you. And so it is. And I'm gonna spotlight you, Gary, for this next song.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. I am the face of God. I hold God in my heart. God is a part of me. I am the face of God. Oh, sacred night. Oh, holy light. This evening in December, a night I will remember through time. Oh, smile so bright. Oh, what a sight. This family I have chosen has caused my heart to open so wide. And there's peace in this room, grace in the air. God is among us, Emmanuel. Oh, sacred night. Oh, sacred night. Oh, face of life. Oh, love's delight. The miracle I'm seeing revealed in every being tonight. And there's peace in this room, grace in the air. God is among us, Emmanuel. Oh, sacred night. Oh, sacred night. Mercy makes its home here in the manger of my soul. All is well. All is well. Oh, sacred night. Oh, holy light. This evening in December, a night I will remember through time. Oh, sacred night. Oh, sacred night. Oh, sacred night. Oh, sacred night.
That was
Love you.
beautiful,
Thank
Gary.
you.
That was really beautiful. I don't often do this, but I'm really inspired to ask you if you'd like to sing one more song.
I'd love to. I'll do this one for you.
Ah, love it.
It's nice of you to ask. Open your mind and unfold your heart. Relax your senses and feel every part. You ain't got a thing to fear. Looks like love that's growing here. So take your guard and let it down. Go deeper still until you come unwound. Unbound. You breathe every breath, yeah. Release your cringe. Love without waiting, without waiting. Slowly unhinge. You ain't got a thing to fear. Looks like love is growing here. So take your guard and let it down. Go deeper still until you come unwound. Unbound. You can stop waiting for love to find you. Look inside your heart. Love's already who you are. Yeah. It's already who we are. So lift up your voice. Lift it up now, now, and let it be heard. Let it be heard. And tell me your story. Tell it to me. And don't leave out a word. Not a word, no. 'Cause I think I've been there too. I'm a seeker just like you. And you ain't got a thing to fear. Looks like love is growing here. So take your guard and let it down. Go deeper still until you come unwound. Unbound. Lay it all down, down, down. Unbound. Open your mind and unfold your heart. Yeah.